Over the years in DC Comics, the lore of the Power Rings has been greatly expanded upon, with the Green Lanterns having been the only Power Ring wielders for the longest time. Now, there exists a multitude of different rings, each powered by a different color in the emotional spectrum. The rings are widely considered to be some of the most powerful weapons in the universe, as their power is only limited by their wielder's affinity to their chosen emotion. The White Lanterns are considered the most powerful of all the Lantern Corps, as they wield the white light of life itself, which at some point in the early days of the universe fragmented into the other colors representing the different emotions. The various Lantern Corps, other than the black, therefore can trace their powers originally to the white light, and are tapping into only a fragmented portion of its power. The white rings have been wielded by a varied number of individuals, from Superman to Captain Boomerang. Since their appearance, they have shaken up the power hierarchy, not just within the different Lantern Corps, but also in the DC universe as a whole. In this video, we will explore the White Lantern Corps in detail and let you know all there is to know about them, from their origin, powers, and limitations, the people who have wielded them, how it works, to even how strong they are compared to Marvel's Infinity. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Origins. Let there be light. In order to understand the White Lantern rings, we must start at the very beginning, starting with their origin. As long as sentient beings exist in the universe, the emotional spectrum will always exist, and therefore, the rings can never truly be destroyed. This, however, is put to test when the villain Nekron, the Lord of the Unliving, creates his black rings powered by the color of death during the events of The Blackest Night by Jeff Johns. Nekron has begun resurrecting billions of dead people around the world, including the likes of Batman, Aquaman, and Maxwell Lord. Yeah, Batman is already dead, but not really. It's kind of complicated and maybe a topic for another video. As the legions of dead begin to rise, the Lantern Corps have no choice but to put aside their differences and unite as one against Nekron and his ever-growing Black Lantern Corps. The endgame of Nekron is finally revealed when he kills one of the immortal guardians of Oa and uses his innards to summon the entity of light, the one responsible for all life existing in the universe. Nekron wants to destroy this entity, which would, in turn, destroy all life in the universe. The Lanterns realize that the entity would acquire a host in order for them to have a fighting chance against Nekron. Hal Jordan steps up for the task, but he is beaten to it by Sinestro, who claims Hal has had his chance with Parallax. Thus, the first White Lantern is born with Sinestro wielding the power of the white light of life. He wouldn't last very long in that role, however, as he couldn't truly bond with the entity of life and harness its power. This was because, according to Hal Jordan, the White Power Ring requires the bearer to have an extremely strong will to live, to harness its powers. But Sinestro's ego overpowered this emotion. This leads to Nekron being able to split him and the entity effortlessly. Hal Jordan would then merge with the life entity, and as he does so, there is this moment when all the power rings start flashing the same message: connection overridden. What happens next is one of the coolest moments in all of comics. Hal Jordan bursts into the scene as the new White Lantern, but he isn't alone. Along with him are Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, and Flash, and they have all become White Lanterns, the members of the new White Lantern Corps. It really fulfilled the wishes of many fans who had wondered what if some of their favorite heroes had power rings. The newly formed Lantern Corps ends Nekron's reign of terror by channeling their powers through Edward Black Hand, who was acting as Nekron's tether and conduit to this dimension. In doing so, they resurrect Black Hand, severing his connection with Death and Nekron. Without Black Hand to act as his conduit to the physical plane, Nekron is vanquished and banished back to his realm. Once the threat is dealt with, the heroes return to their normal selves and lose their status as White Lantern. The comic ends on a cliffhanger as we see a crater in the middle of a road, and within it is the White Power Battery, signifying this as just the beginning for the White Lanterns in the DC verse. One ring to rule them all. Just like how the green power ring needs its bearer to have an extraordinary amount of willpower to make it function, the white power ring, Hal Jordan informs us in The Blackest Night, requires the bearer's will to survive to override all their other emotion in order to truly function to its fullest potential. We saw how Sinestro couldn't bear its power, as his ego was greater than his will to survive. This, however, is contradicted in later comics, where it is said that a White Lantern needs all 7 of its emotions to be running at full capacity to harness its power. One can also become a White Lantern if they are chosen by the entity of life itself. The White Ring draws its powers from the power of life itself. If one, however, is capable of establishing a powerful enough connection to this power, the ring allows its wielder to perform some extreme feats. Since all emotional spectrum derive their origin from the white light, the White Lantern can use the abilities of all the other 7 lesser rings. In essence, a White Lantern is almost a godlike being. It is seen dominating and overriding the rings belonging to the other emotional spectrum. spectrum, giving us a clear indication of its superiority. Powers and ability. Though the white ring shares many of the abilities that the rest of the rings grant their users, there are many other unique abilities that are exclusive to it as well. Let us go through all the abilities, both unique and the ones it shares with the other power ring, that you can expect from a white lantern. Flight. Just like all other lantern core, wielding a white power ring grants you the power to fly. It does so by manipulating the anti-graviton and directing molecular movements, and can achieve amazing speed. They can grant their users the ability to fly and traverse space at an astonishing pace, sometimes even surpassing light speed. While in flight, the user doesn't have to worry about heat or the adverse effects of moving at such a speed due to the layer of protection that the ring puts around its bearer. Although it doesn't grant you the speed of someone like the Flash, it makes you one of the fastest beings in the universe. Force field. The ring is capable of creating force fields of any shape and size to protect its users and whoever they choose to put within it. Its strength is relative to the strength of its user. It is capable of blocking out most physical and energy attacks. It is also capable of creating a conducive environment, depending on the species of the people within it. It is capable of transporting people within it through the harsh outer space as it functions as a highly advanced spacesuit by blocking out solar radiation, removing waste, etc. Although considered one of the most basic powers of a lantern, this ability has a vast amount of utility. Phasing. The white lanterns are able to phase through solid objects. While it might not seem like an ability that would make enemies quake in fear, this makes facing a white lantern an extremely scary proposition. Let us explain how. Since a white lantern is able to phase through objects like wall, it would be impossible to trap a white lantern. It would also mean the enemy wouldn't be able to barricade or hide themselves. With no place to run or hide, thanks to this ability, there is no escaping a white lantern. Healing. A white lantern ring is capable of healing all manners of injury, since it draws its powers from life itself. It is only natural that this should be one of its abilities. They have such a connection to life energy that their healing ability extends well beyond just wounds and injury. They have the ability to resurrect the dead with almost zero limitation. It truly makes you a god with control over life, defying the very logic of the universe. The ring does not seem to discriminate between villains and heroes when it comes to resurrecting. Energy constructs creation. When you are a godlike being, it is only proper that you have the power to create things. The white lanterns can create energy construct based on their thought. The constructs are made of white life energy. The designs of the construct are only limited by the white lantern's own imagination and its connection to the life energy. The very first energy construct we see is made by Sinestro when he creates a giant sword to combat Necron during the Blackest Night. Constructs do not have outward weakness, such as Green Lantern's weakness to the color yellow, although that is a flaw that the later Green Lanterns do not have. The only weakness of the White Lantern's constructs is if the opposition overpowers the White Lantern's own will and connection to the white light of life. Unique ability. Besides healing and resurrection, a white lantern also has several other unique abilities as well. These include the power to use the abilities of the other lesser rings, such as the Indigo Tribe's ability to teleport, the Blue Lantern's ability to enhance ability, the red plasma of the Red Lanterns, etc. They can also turn invisible if they choose to. The white lanterns can also store all types of energy for their own use. One of their more unique skills is to create a holographic scene out of its databank. The scene is not real and is merely a replay of actual events. The White Lantern cannot alter the past via these projections, through their connection to all life in the universe. The White Lanterns can also see echoes of life which serve as sort of footprints to see the past and present conditions of all living creatures within a limited radius. Who are the members of the White Lantern Corps? Unlike the remaining power rings in their core, the White Lanterns do not have a permanent core as of now. The life entity chooses upon whom to bestow its powers, depending on whether they will serve its purpose. The only two times we have seen a semblance of a White Lantern Corps was during the Blackest Night, when Hal Jordan emerges as the White Lantern with the likes of Superman, Wonder Man, Flash, and a few other super. This was only temporal, because as soon as Necron was defeated, they all lost their status as White Lantern. The other time was when Kyle Rayner in the New 52 created his own White Lantern Corps after obtaining the life equation. This too was temporary, as the group disbanded soon after. There have been only two long-term users of the White Lantern, Boston Brand, aka the Deadman, and Kyle Rayner. They were both, however, unable to wield the ring permanently. Boston dies yet again, giving his ring to Alec Holland, who uses it to take up the mantle of the Swamp Thing again, and uses his powers to heal the world. After the events in the aftermath of Necron's defeat and Kyle Rayner, who, after obtaining the life equation, decides to split his power power into 7 different rings and disperses them throughout the galaxy. Some of the more noteworthy White Lanterns besides these two are Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, Professor Zoom, Captain Boomerang, Sinestro, and Aquaman. The question of who can wield the white ring isn't straightforward. We do know that the person has to have an overwhelming will to survive. They need to be able to harness and control all the emotions in the spectrum to an extremely high level, and they need to be chosen by the entity of light. Infinity Gems versus White Lantern. Now, comparing them to the Infinity Stones or gems from the Marvel Universe. These are artifacts that function very differently and serve different purposes, but let's compare them when it comes to the head-to-head power ranking. The Infinity Gems control the very fabric of reality, consisting of the power, mind, time, reality, soul, space, and time gem. Each gem, when wielded individually, controls the aspect related to their name, but their true power lies when an individual wields them all at once. This person basically becomes an omnipresent God who is able to alter, create, or destroy reality, space, and time at their whim. The White Power Ring, although having near godlike powers too, like the ability to resurrect the dead, but they possess nowhere near the reality-bending powers of the Infinity. The gems can do everything the White Lanterns can do and more. However, there are a few caveats to this. No matter how straightforward the matchup might look in favor of the Infinity Gem, the Infinity Gems have been around a long while, and their powers have gotten an ample amount of time to be fleshed out, whereas the White Lanterns have been around for not nearly half that amount of time. The powers of the White Lantern are still being developed. Also, the power levels of these artifacts vary according to the various comics or movies they are adapted. The biggest caveat, though, is the Infinity Gems only work in their corresponding universe, which is seen when Darkseid gets a hold of them in one of the comics, and they refuse to work. Seeing as the focus of our video today is the DC Universe and the White Lanterns, it's safe to say that if the Infinity Gems were to turn up in front of a White Lantern, they would be nothing more than pretty stone. Marvelous conclusion. In conclusion, we can say that the White Lanterns are a great addition to the DC Comics landscape. The Green Lantern mythos has received a much-needed rejuvenation, first with the advent of the various other power rings, and now the Black and White Ring. The Lantern lore have never felt more fleshed out and deep. The White Power Ring still remains largely mysterious regarding the extent of its power. We are sure the White Lanterns are a mainstay as one of the most powerful forces in the DC Universe, and it only remains to be seen what feats they will achieve in the coming days. We hope we have been able to answer many of the questions that you might have had about the White Lanterns and their ring. In case we missed something, we would love to hear from you in the comments below. For now, though, this is it. Catch you soon on the next Marvelous video. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.